Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty interesting today, huh?
Yeah, definitely. This should be good.
We're going to be looking at how people in Japan, how Japanese people see foreign tourists.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to try to figure out what this whole idea of like a troublesome foreigner is all about.
Right.
The source material we're using for this deep dive is a YouTube video.
Oh, okay, cool.
The title is Japan Foreign Tourists Unwelcome in Japan Travel #Shorts.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Japan is known for being so hospitable,
Mm-hmm.
like they're so welcoming. But this video is saying that certain types of visitors,
Right.
certain types of tourists maybe aren't so welcome.
Mm.
So what is it that makes a tourist troublesome in Japan? That's what we're going to be looking at.
I'm curious to find out.
Me too, me too. So the video starts off by saying that most Japanese people are actually happy to have foreign tourists come visit.
Okay.
But there's kind of a condition to that.
And what's that?
Respect. Respect for Japanese culture. What do you think about that? What comes to mind when you hear that, like respecting Japanese culture?
Well, Japan has a very unique and rich culture, with a strong emphasis on tradition and customs.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think respecting Japanese culture would mean being mindful of those traditions and customs and really trying to understand the values that underpin them.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're welcome to come and visit and see all the amazing things that Japan has to offer.
Right.
But, you got to be considerate of how things are done there.
Absolutely. It's like being a guest in someone's home,
Exactly.
You wouldn't just barge in and start changing things around.
Definitely not.
You'd respect the way they live, their rules and their way of doing things.
And that's the same with visiting a country.
Right.
Like being a guest in Japan, it's like you're a guest in their home, their country.
I like that analogy.
So it's not about like not being a foreigner.
Right.
It's about like being a respectful guest.
Exactly. It's about understanding and appreciating the cultural differences and adapting your behavior accordingly,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And Japan, in particular, places a very high value on social harmony.
Mm-hmm.
They even have a word for it, wa.
Wow. Okay.
And wa essentially means prioritizing the well-being of the group over individual expression.
That's interesting.
So actions that disrupt that harmony,
Like what?
like being loud or confrontational,
Okay.
those can be seen as disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, imagine a beautifully arranged garden.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Everything has its place,
Okay.
right? And there's this sense of balance and tranquility.
Yeah.
But then someone comes in and starts shouting or throwing things around.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That disrupts that peaceful atmosphere,
Yeah, it's like creating chaos.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's get into some specific examples of what the video talks about.
Okay, yeah.
The video highlights these behaviors.
Things like being loud on trains,
Mm-hmm.
not following cues, littering, and public displays of anger.
Okay, I see.
Why would those be seen as troublesome in Japan, do you think?
Well, let's start with being loud on trains.
Mm.
In Japan, train rides are often seen as a time for quiet reflection
Okay.
or even a quick nap.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shared space where people value peace and quiet,
Right.
So if someone's talking loudly on their phone, it can be quite jarring.
Yeah, it disrupts the whole atmosphere.
Exactly. It's like breaking an unspoken rule.
Okay, that makes sense. What about queuing? What's the deal with that?
Queuing is very important in Japan.
Uh-huh.
It ties into their concepts of fairness and equality. Everyone waits their turn patiently.
Yeah.
And cutting in line is a big no-no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's seen as a violation of that social contract,
Oh, I see.
It disrupts the order.
So even seemingly small things, right,
Yeah.
can actually have a big impact on how you're perceived. Absolutely. It's all about respecting those unspoken rules
Right.
and understanding that even small actions can have a ripple effect.
It's all connected to those deeper cultural values.
Precise.
Okay, so we've talked about being loud on trains, not queuing properly. What about littering?
Littering is another example of disrespecting shared public spaces.
Okay.
It's not just about keeping things tidy, it's about showing consideration for others. In Japan, there's a strong sense of collective responsibility for keeping the environment clean.
It's like you're saying, I don't care about this space we all share. by littering.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And public displays of anger, well, that's a big one in Japan.
Mm.
It goes
Yeah.
against that core value of maintaining harmony, you know?
Right. Wa. Exactly. Wa. It's seen as a loss of control and can make others feel very uncomfortable.
So we've covered what not to do.
Right.
What can visitors do to show respect, make a good impression? Well, there are a few simple things that can go a long way, like bowing slightly when you greet someone.
Oh, okay.
That shows respect. Learning a few basic Japanese phrases like thank you.
Arigato.
Yes, arigato, or excuse me.
Right.
It shows you're making an effort.
It's about being mindful, right?
Yeah, being mindful of your surroundings.
Trying to blend in, not stick out too much.
Exactly. It's all about showing that you respect and appreciate their culture.
Right. Okay. So the video mentions tolerance too.
Ah, yes, tolerance.
What do you think about that? The video is saying Japanese people are more tolerant of those who don't know the rules, but less so of those who, just ignore them on purpose.
That's an interesting point. I think there's a recognition that not every visitor will be familiar with all the nuances of Japanese etiquette.
Right.
So there's a certain level of understanding and forgiveness extended to those who are, genuinely trying to learn.
Like they're making an effort.
Exactly. But when someone clearly knows the customs and chooses to disregard them, it can be seen as a sign of disrespect.
It's about the intention behind it.
I think so, yes. It goes back to that idea of being a respectful guest, not just a tourist.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think this has been a really insightful look into this whole idea.
Yeah, it has.
So to wrap it up,
Mm-hmm.
being a welcome visitor in Japan, or anywhere really,
Yes, and where you go.
boils down to being respectful and being willing to adapt to the local customs.
Absolutely.
And, even though we focused on Japan here,
Yeah.
I think everything we've talked about can be applied to any country you visit.
I agree, 100%.
So before you go on your next trip abroad, do your research,
Yeah, great advice.
Look up local customs, etiquette. It'll make your trip better,
Definitely.
and show respect for the people you're, visiting.
Plus, you'll probably learn some really interesting things along the way.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, safe travels, everyone.
Safe travels.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Sounds good.